Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for October 9th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. The Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 85 in the house, and we said it yesterday. Rubina planned to talk to MJ, so today was the big day. The Rubina-MJ conversation, of course, with Chelsie as the HOH, MJ holding that Final Four veto. It was going to happen. And with me to talk about it is Cory. How you doing, Cory?
I'm doing okay. I just want to warn the viewers, strap in. It's going to be a long one. Get your snacks.
So, of course, awaiting this Rubina-MJ conversation. Before we get there, Chelsie talked to the cameras a bit in the morning. She talked about her game, specifically about, again, wanting to go to the end with MJ and Cam. She feels like MJ is more likely to take Rubina to the final two than she is Cam. She feels like she can beat MJ. She loves that MJ is getting all this blood on her hands, promising Rubina about the women's thing and then having to stand up there and evict her. She's really happy with her decision to throw the Final Four veto competition. And so on and so forth. And so she's feeling pretty good. She's feeling like I feel like I got this thing.
Me too, Taran. I think it's always the sign of like a really great player, great winner. How far back could we say you locked up the game? And especially going into the final three, having theoretically 3 winning HOH scenarios. It's hard to find anything to criticize in this Endgame. It's something that we really haven't discussed because we assume Chelsie beats Cam and MJ. I think MJ is the more dangerous option in the final two.
I mean, we talked about this last night on the roundtable. According to the audience predictions, Chelsie beats Cam more easily. Chelsie wins unanimously against Cam. And she, I think for MJ, it was 5-2.
Yeah, it feels like her path is always the trio plus Quinn, and then maybe she gets another vote. So like it feels like she has that pretty locked up. But I feel like MJ, you got to give her at least Leah and Angela. And a 7-person jury, do you want to give away 2 votes? So like if I'm her and I win that final HOH, I think I go with Cam, but I think both paths seem pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it makes a lot of sense to take Cam. Considering if you win that final HOH, I think cutting MJ is, I think, what a lot of people will be looking for you to do. Not that you need that, but like I think that people will be looking at MJ and Chelsie as the two. And if only one of them is in the end, it's like, oh well, that's even easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the danger, I think, is you make MJ upset, and then MJ votes with Leah and Angela, not as a voting block, but just against Chelsie, and now it's 4-3. Like, again, Leah and Angela are less likely to vote for Cam, so it dispels some of that. I do think part of, like, Chelsea's dominance in this endgame has shown something you've been talking about for a while, which is, like, if you're in a great position, just keep winning comps to ensure that great position. I think throwing the veto at the final four was like the exact right decision, but I feel like in most circumstances, it's like the extra blood on your hand is negated by the power you get by winning that competition and the safety you get from that competition. So
yeah, and to be fair, also like it was a scenario where she exactly knew that Rubina had been eliminated, and so she could throw it to specifically one of 2 people. And even then, quite honestly, I don't love this for her if Cam does win that final round and evicts MJ here, and then it's Cam and Rubina in the final 3 with her. Like that is kind of that's a different path, and that's not nearly as good. So quite honestly, I still think she probably shouldn't have thrown that final 4 veto.
Well, it's played out. She wins it. Probably picks MJ over Cam, I would imagine, to do the cutting because MJ would cut Rubina.
Yeah.
And then do you think Cam cuts Chelsie at that point?
I mean, I think he might cut Chelsie regardless. But like, because that's the thing, right? Like, if she wins and keeps MJ, and then MJ evicts Rubina, then she's in the same exact position she's in now, basically. She can, tell Cam, like, listen, I know you want to cut MJ. I don't think we can cut MJ yet. I think that Rubina is a bigger jury threat for us right now, so on and so forth. I mean, it's certainly not like, I think what happened is optimal, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't even think that throwing the Final Four veto, even in the specific scenario she was in, was like the slam dunk easy decision, which all goes to back up the point that you originally made, which is just like, yeah, just in general, just keep winning. If you're good enough to be in that position, you're probably good enough to manage the downsides of winning the comp.
I'm trying to remember like the score of the quiz at that time, or the score of the comp at that time. If there was like a probability of like, oh, MJ's probably going to win this over Cam, but Cam was doing very well. So I don't.
I think
Again,
it
it doesn't.
was MJ 2 strikes to Cam's 1, I think. So I mean, he was a little more likely to win at that point.
But everything's coming up Chelsie, so worked out.
Yeah. So MJ does talk to Chelsie. She says she can't wait for this conversation with Rubina. She is really curious to see what Rubina has to say to her. And she knows what she'll say to Rubina. She's talked a lot about this conversation. And it's hard to keep saying this after days and days and days, but like, I still do feel like a conversation with Rubina could change MJ's mind. I really think that, despite everything she's saying about being annoyed it's not happening, about what she plans to say, there's still a good chance it could really change her mind, at least temporarily. Because the problem is she'll have one conversation with MJ, and then MJ will have another conversation with Chelsie, and then that will probably change her mind back. But it's still worth noting, like, it's even like whenever this conversation happens, it very much has a chance to change her mind.
Well, that's the genius of it, Taran. She needs to get in the last minute, because if she leaves a 10-minute window, Chelsie will get back in and change MJ's mind.
There it is.
Like,
yeah, just
what's
wait
the point of campaigning
all the way?
Honestly, like, I think most of the reason I came off the block week 1 was because I was the last person to speak to Riley. Like, it's just at a certain point with certain players, you have to like take time into account, and I have no faith that's what Rubina's doing. I think she's just procrastinating.
Yeah.
But I, as the number 1 Rubina stan, she's playing it smart.
There you go. Well, we finally get to a conversation with MJ by Cam, who talks to MJ again today. He's asking her like how things are going. She says, I'm still on the same track. I'm leaning toward keeping you. They talk about the chemo thing again. And he says again, like, the thing was that I just had a better relationship with chemo, but I knew it wasn't better for the two of you. It was just better for me. So ultimately I decided to relent and let it go for the sake of the trio and hope that would be reciprocated. And I'm just like, yeah, I agree.
It's making a lot more sense coming from Chelsie, because Cam didn't have the votes. Like, Cam's like, I made the brave decision to not be on the wrong side of a 2-1 vote to keep Rubina. Like, hey, look, you use whatever works, and I guess this either clicks for MJ or just clicks enough for Cam for him to keep saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much just like, what else are you gonna say? Like, yeah, I had no choice. I definitely wanted to keep chemo regardless of how bad it was for you.
And look, I think the other alternative is, hey, I know I can't take Chelsie to the final 2, which he's obviously said, he's alluded to. They've had those discussions. But like, if I'm MJ, I care so much more about what happens next versus what happened last week.
You'd think, yeah. So then MJ goes and talks to Chelsie, and she complains Rubina still hasn't talked. She said she wanted to talk to me. She still hasn't even talked to me. What's going on? And Rubina's like, man, MJ's avoiding me.
It's messed up, Taran. Everyone in the house is ostracizing everyone from everybody.
Well, they do some tie-dye.
Yep.
Classic Big Brother Endgame activity.
I would not know. I was in the jury house watching Netflix.
They don't have you do tie-dye in the jury house?
They had us carve pumpkins. That's because our season went to Halloween. So
they do some tie-dye. They do a little fashion show kind of situation. They're hanging out, they're doing their thing. Still no game talks though. So we're waiting on those game talks. And where is Rubina? Is she gonna pull MJ aside? No.
Well, the good thing is live feed update tomorrow as well. So maybe then we'll get the
Listen,
elusive game
it's
talk.
the genius of the format. Rubina can procrastinate all she wants. I'm gonna catch it when it happens, and I'm gonna tell you about it.
Here's my Big Brother production cap I'm putting on, okay?
Hmm.
I think we do no double eviction at the final 12, 11, 10, that double eviction. Get rid of that from the format entirely and do one 6 to 5 or like 7 to 5 and then 5 to 3. Like we need 2 double evictions in the end game just to rush through some of this because and I think this season they even extended it further than last season in terms
This
of these
has
last couple
been
weeks.
one of the longest Final Fours in recent memory to me. It's a very long Final Four into a very short Final Three. Thursday to Sunday, it feels very short as a Final Three to me. So, yeah.
It's very considerate of them considering Rubina needs to like charge up her power to campaign. I think they were like making a caste-based decision here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something very very good about the classic format of just like basically from final 5 down to final 2. It should just be a couple of days each time. It should just be enough time to do a comp, then do a ceremony, then do a vote, then do a comp, then do a vote, then do a comp, then do the final vote. Like it doesn't have to be doubles. It doesn't have to be like supercharged. Just like give it a couple of days in between each one, and that's like the perfect amount of time.
Taryn, correct me if I'm wrong, but just the way you're speaking, I might be confused. It seems like you don't want wacky competitions with a ton of like special effects and huge construction builds, and you like. Am
No, what
I
I'm
right?
saying is that I want them to overwork their workers and make all of those wacky competitions in just a couple of days every time.
Here's what I'll say, Taryn. I've talked to those workers. They love making the sweaty feet comp. The cats running across the backyard comp. This is a labor of love.
Well, MJ does talk to Chelsie. She says if Rubina hasn't talked to me by Wednesday, I'm just evicting her. Which is not true. I don't think that it's not like she's going to have the conversation with Rubina and be like, "You know what? You did promise me the world, but it took you too long to make the to talk to me, so I'm evicting you anyway." But very funny that she's this frustrated. And later in this conversation, she's like, "I still want to talk to both of them tomorrow," as if there's still so much more to talk about, which I guess there is because nothing's been talked about. But she is definitely still leaning toward evicting Rubina. And she still plans to talk to Rubina tomorrow and also talk to Cam again tomorrow.
So the strategic logic from MJ is like it's a loyalty thing. The three of them standing pat. Cam is bad at comps, and Rubina has 2 locked-in jury votes. Those are kind of the main points.
The jury thing is the main thing, which it does make you because I think that MJ is very worried about coming in third place, and very worried about like what happens if that third person wins. And Cam has implied to her that he would take her. She straight up said to Chelsie she thinks Cam will take Chelsie. He has not said that he would cut you, which he technically hasn't, but definitely implied it. And I think this is a huge part of why Chelsie feels so confident in pushing for Cam to stay. So there is definitely a little bit of deception here and a little bit of like, ooh, gotcha. Like Chelsea's pushing for Cam to stay, but meanwhile he's implying that he'll keep me. I think I beat Cam. You have to imagine there's a part of MJ that's feeling like, well, if my worst case scenario is I win the game, that's pretty good. And we know that that's her best case scenario. But I think that's what her current thought is. What she's telling Chelsie is, I'm annoyed that she feels comfortable. I'm annoyed that she hasn't talked to me. She has a better chance of winning in the jury, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, the Rubina path just makes so much more sense, but that is all assuming Rubina cuts Chelsie, which
Mhm.
itself is like it seems like that would have been the case
You'd
at least a
think
week
if
ago.
here's the thing, you'd think if that were the case, she would have said so by now, right?
Taran, you don't this is Tamara's plan. She's getting there. It's funny.
Uh,
Like I always found in Big Brother, campaigning is so impossible earlier in the game because there's so many moving parts. You don't know the landscape of the house. You don't know, like, if you campaign to someone, you kind of have to throw someone else under the bus, but maybe they're
mhm.
working together. It's very straightforward at this point. Like, she doesn't have to run an anti-cam campaign at this point. Like, you could just, there's one vote and you genuinely benefit their game, or maybe you don't, in which case you probably shouldn't be there anyways. Because if she's planning on getting to the final three and taking Chelsie, why not just dip out in fourth and take part in the roundtable?
It really is the simplest campaign you can make, which is just it's one person who controls the entire thing.
Yeah.
You,
In
it's
fairness, MJ's waking up at like noon. So that
well,
takes like a couple
because
hours
here's the
off.
thing. When I say that, I don't even mean MJ. I mean Chelsea. She
Oh.
should be campaigning to Chelsea.
Well, one at a time. I'm curious. I think like one of the most interesting rankings to do postseason is T-Core, Chemo, Rubina in terms of like the activity ranking. Because I
Mm,
swear throughout the season, it just changes. Like it felt like Rubina was the only one campaigning against Chemo. And now Rubina's doing nothing. And when it came to the Cedric flip, it was Chemo doing all of it instead of T-Core. But then Chemo took it. Like they all, I'm sure one of them right now is active in jury,
mm.
T-Core or Chemo. Because only
I bet
one
it's
of them can be
chemo.
active at a time. You think it's Chemo?
I bet it's chemo because chemo has the Angela connection. He has the Quinn connection. I think chemo is more connected in the jury than T Core is right now.
Yeah, I mean he gets like 2 or 3 days in jury to work his match. I guess he gets longer this season. On our season, Suri came in with only a few days left.
Hmm.
Um, I just think like you're kind of campaigning to people who probably already think the same way as you. Except
Yeah.
Angela, and Angela's not worth campaigning to. Like, what are you doing there? So my guess, all three are passive, but we'll see.
Mm. So that's pretty much it. That's we still haven't had Rubina make a campaign, but today is the last full day before the eviction tomorrow night. So we'll see if there's a I'm sure I've said this. The problem is I keep saying the same thing over and over, and I don't want to be like it. It makes me feel like I shouldn't keep saying it, but I feel like I need to keep saying it because it will happen. The conversation will happen. I'm sure of it. Just it hasn't happened yet, but I'm telling you, it's coming. I'm
I'm
not
just gonna
crazy. Stop looking at me like
no.
that.
This is one of those like TV cliffhangers where they do the cliffhanger 7 episodes in a row, and you're like, I'm done with
this
the show.
this is the Dragon Ball Z of Big Brother.
Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah.
Uh,
This the battle for between Rubina and Cam has lasted so many episodes and they haven't even actually started fighting yet. They're just powering up still.
I'm curious, Taryn. So your dream ending to the season from a it's a great season perspective. I think for me, it's MJ cutting Rubina, winning the final HOH, and taking Chelsie. I feel like that's the most like thematic ending of MJ
Mm,
comps out, makes all the wrong
yeah.
moves, Chelsie dominates in the final two.
I agree. I think that's the best ending. I think like Chelsea winning the like I always root for the best player to win in the like most challenging way.
Yeah.
And I guess the most challenging way would be Cam winning and then her still getting Cam to take her. But like in terms of how the like how the season plays out, like the whole season, the whole back half of the season has been MJ making moves for Chelsea, and MJ could have won this game if she just made moves for herself. So the final thing being MJ takes Chelsea loses is like the most fitting way for the season to end in terms of what is likely to happen for sure.
Yeah. Last thing, how confident are you? Like, I think MJ Cam final two kind of depends on who cuts Chelsea. But do you think MJ wins regardless?
We talked about that last night. It's kind of tough. It depends on so many factors. We've already talked about like how much can a last minute move even make an impact. Like when the jury is sitting there like looking at the crowd for their family and like all that stuff, like how much do they really care when they're like, well, it'll be either Chelsie or it'll be MJ, not even thinking, because maybe they assume that Cam would never cut Chelsie, and
Yeah.
so they're like, and then it's like, wait, Cam cut Chelsie? Well, I guess that screws my whole brain. I don't even have questions prepared for this. Like, so, you then have to look at like specifically, I think Quinn might respect that
Yeah.
genuinely. I think he might be looking at it on the fly as something to respect. But we know that Leah has seemingly been an active voice for MJ in the jury house. I think that Angela, like, she likes Cam a lot, but does she respect his game? Would she respect his game if he cut Chelsie? At this point, I think a lot of people in the jury house think MJ is also a huge threat. So like cutting one over the other might not even be that huge to them.
Yeah, I think what's brutal is Cam would also probably lose Chelsea's vote. I don't know if he ever
Lose
would have
Chelsea's
it
vote
before.
and maybe even like lose T-Core's vote. Like, there's some rough angles to that too.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's a win for MJ, which not as here. Look, Chelsie would obviously be a 10 times better winner than MJ. I think MJ would also be a pretty fitting winner for the season as well.
MJ
Like I think
winning
those are
accidentally because she loses the final HOH to Cam would be also a very fitting end to this
yeah.
particular season.
Like for me, like I want a satisfying winner. Like while I might not think Rachel Riley played the best game in 13, it was a super satisfying winner. I think Chelsie or MJ would be satisfying for me.
Mhm.
Obviously, the game bot, I want it to be Chelsie, but I'm happy with both those outcomes. And a Cam win, opposite of satisfying, kind of funny, which in a weird way is satisfying. So we'll see.
Mm.
I feel like unless Taran, Rubina pulls out this conversation.
This is exactly true. The thing about Cam winning is that as an animal lover, I would be very happy that all of the dogs at the crib would be satisfied and happy and taken care of.
I hope in the audience it's like none of his family. It's just the boys.
Just the dogs, no longer at the crib.
No, or maybe the Big Brother house is the crib.
Um, all right. Well, that's what we have for you today. Of course, I will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including this conversation that may or may not happen at this point. So stay tuned for that. And then tonight I'll be live on Twitch watching Survivor. And then tomorrow night, the eviction. I'll be on Twitch watching it. We'll have a recap. Lots of fun stuff coming there. We also talked to the Circle people. We did some Circle coverage. We talked to the jet lag guys. We're doing the summits. Lots of things happening. We know scripted TV. You guys all know it by now if you've been listening. Cory, what are you up to?
I am streaming on twitch.tv/Cory Wurtenberger. Bowie's coming into town, so maybe a reverse mafia kind of stream coming up. Patreon.com/AmeriCory. We're doing a ton of stuff. Big Brother 7 rewatch, our podcast, all that sort of stuff. And this is my last update of the season. So thank you for having me, Taran. Thank you all for watching. I'm glad we ended on such a high note.
Maybe next time we don't go for the alliteration. We try for a better day.
Well, look, I blame the cast.
It
BB25 had crazy Wurtenberger Wednesdays.
was more of the cast's fault for sure. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.